Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to talk to you guys about the brand new record from Grand Magus, Wolf God, out April 19th on Nuclear Blast. This album has 10 tracks, 39 minutes in length, and is the band's 9th full-length album. Now this album to me has a very raw sound. This is almost like a live album that was recorded in the studio. And this gives the songs a raw, unfiltered, underproduced, if you will. And what I mean is not overly clean. Like they're not overly concerned with cleaning up the tracks. They really recorded this in a raw format, and it comes across in the songs, and it gives the songs in the overall album a feel of a live recording. What this does for the music on this specific record and for these tracks is it gives them a certain life. It gives them a certain atmosphere. It really makes the songs more unique, more different, and overall it gives the record a very different feel, a very unique feel about it. When you're listening to this record, the way the guitars sound, it almost sounds the same way they would sound, like I said, in a live recording, in a live setting. Same thing with the drums, the way the drums come across, the way they sound on the record, the way they set some of the tempos of the songs, it really play well to that live atmosphere feel. Now, the thing that I was concerned as I started listening to the record is how is the bass going to sound like? Because normally on a live recording, you not always are able to catch the bass and have a predominant bass line in songs, because it's sometimes hidden by either the volume on the drums or the magnitude of the sound of the guitar. So that to me was a concern going in. The moment I realized that this was the style, that this was the sound that this record had. Well, I really like what they did with the bass on this album. The bass is really used a lot and is used in the forefront of a lot of songs, and they didn't hide it. They didn't put it away, they didn't tuck it away, they didn't end justice for all the bass on this record. They really used it, and they used it well to really emphasize some of the melodies, but also some of the atmosphere that certain tracks had. They really used it well. I really feel like this album divides guitars, drums, bass. The guitars have a very unique sound to it. In some tracks, the guitar has a more doom sound flavor to it, and in some songs have a more pure rock and roll vibe flavor to it. Because this is a record that really combines doom and pure rock and roll heavy metal. So you're gonna get that change between those styles coming from the guitars, predominantly from the guitars. I really love the guitar sound on the record. I love how raw it sounds. I love how raw it feels. How pure badass rock and roll vibe. The undertones on every single track, it really has it in spades. I really like that. But on the other side, I feel like they have the drums and the bass coming together. The two really work well in unison. They really work in parallel. They really emphasize the flavor that the songs have. They're really there, not just as add-ons, as condiments, if you will, to the tracks, but they're there to create the opposite vibe that you're getting from the guitars. From the guitars, you're getting more of an unfiltered sound. When it comes to the drums and the bass, you're getting more of a pungent, more a sound that sets a different kind of tempo, that sets a different kind of mood. So I like the dynamic between the guitars, the drums, and the bass on the record. Overall, I like how they made it. All three sound very live, like I said, very live setting. It has a very distinctive sound. The record has a very distinctive flavor to it. I like how they did that, but most important, like I mentioned earlier, I love the fact that they did not hide the bass behind anything. They really allowed the bass to be a predominant player on most of the tracks. And that to me is really important for a record that has this sort of atmosphere, this sort of a vibe. And anytime you have a record that really mingles the flavors of pure rock and roll, heavy metal, and doom, you really need the bass to be in the forefront on a lot of the tracks. You really need the bass to be a predominant player. And in this record, I know a lot of people concentrate on the guitar riffs, on the solos, and by God, they are magnificent on this record. I really love what they did on the guitar side of things, but I really feel like I need to talk about the bass, because the bass was, in my perspective, a predominant player throughout the record, and it really helps set the tone. It really helped the atmosphere. It helped set the tone of the record. It allowed the record to have a well-balanced sound throughout, and that to me was extremely important, because for this kind of sound, for this kind of feel, sometimes the bass could go forgotten. It didn't. They did an amazing job in the mix. They really allowed the bass to still be there, and at the same time allow the whole record to have that live vibe to it. I really enjoyed this record. I felt that it was very dynamic, very fluid. There are 2 songs I like on the record. They did a really good job on creating an album that has 10 very unique and different tracks, but with common denominators. There's a lot of common denominators throughout the record. I mentioned some in terms of the sound, that live sound, the way the guitars and the bass is played. So there are a lot of common denominators. So what they did was they used those denominators and they sprinkled them in on every single track to allow the record to have a sense of continuity. Having said that, they changed the way the song structures were from song to song in order not to allow the record to be repetitive. Because when you have a record with this kind of dynamic, with this kind of sound, it's very easy to get into a rut where almost every song sounds almost alike. Not exactly alike, but very alike. But by changing the structure, by adding a few things, changing the vocal layering, by adding a few things to the vocal style, to the vocal delivery, adding a little bit of a choir vibe to some songs, a little bit of layers to it, changing where the solos come in, changing the intro, using a little bit of a bass line in an intro, using a little bit of a bass line on a bridge. By changing the structures, they were able to use the same components, song in and song out, and create 10 very unique and different songs that have nothing alike from each other, besides those common denominators. But they all feel like 10 unique and different songs, and that's important when you're sitting down to listen to a record. Now, as far as songs are concerned, I'm not going to talk about the singles, so I picked 3 different songs from the singles. I'm going to start with Dawn of Fire, my favorite song on the record. I absolutely love this song. Great heavy melodic riff, almost a pure doom riff with sprinkles of heavy metal rock and roll in there. There's a little bit of that in there. Some undertones that are really pushing the song forward. The song has a very great verses, but the chorus of this song is so powerful. It's so compelling. It has a really powerful chorus. I really like that. They used vocal layering in the chorus. They had a little bit of different layers to the vocals on the chorus, almost giving the song a little bit of a hymn. There's a little bit of humming in it. There's a little bit of almost of a choir of multiple layers of vocal tracks there, and that gives the song a beautiful melody. Specifically, I'm talking about specifically in the chorus, a beautiful melody, very haunting, very powerful, and almost a song that feels like a hymn. And that, to me, when you combine the overall vibe of a live setting with that doom undertone, with the hymn, you really have a powerful song that really speaks to me. I really enjoy this track. The next one is Spear Thrower. Great dynamic song, fast tempo, much different from the previous one. This is a much faster song, has a lot of a faster tempo to it. It feels almost like more of a rock and roll song in the way it's built, almost like a Motorhead song. It has a verses versus chorus dynamic. I really feel like the song pumps the brakes every so slightly when it gets to the chorus. It's really fast during the verses, but it pumps the brakes a little bit when it gets to the chorus. Just enough, not too much, just a little bit. Almost, you can barely notice, but just a little bit. And then it picks up again once it gets to the verses. It really has a little bit of a Motorhead vibe to it, but it works really well on this album. It really allows the record to pick up a little bit of speed. It's a song that gives the record a little bit more momentum, and it really allows you to continue that momentum into the second half of the record. Last but not least, Glory to the Brave. I love how they use the bass in this song. The bass line at the start, and they didn't just put it at the start and then strip it away. No, they put it at the start in a predominant role, but then they kept it there, always kept it there throughout the track. They really allowed the bass to come in and out. Sometimes it's a little bit more predominant than others, but you can tell that the bass is there all the time. This song is a little bit slower, has more of a doom, dark tone, undertone to it. Great song. It has a very unique dynamic to it. It's a song that has a lot of cool components. It perhaps, of all the songs on the record, this is the one that gives you a synopsis of what the whole album has to offer, because there are a little bit of everything on this track. I like how they put it together. I like the structure. I like the verses of the song during the verses, it really feels like something is being dragged into the chorus. You just have that sensation of the song really dragging something. It just feels like it's dragging until you get into the chorus, and then the chorus has a heavy doom undertone to it. It's just a very well structured song. One of the key components about this song, and one of the key things that to me immediately spoke to me about this song, was the up-tempo guitar riff that leads into the guitar solo. I really have to mention that because it was absolutely delicious on how they structure this song for a song that has a very slow atmosphere to it, a very doom atmosphere to it. I like how they incorporated the solo by adding this build-up guitar riff that just you feel like it's taking you somewhere, it's going somewhere, and it's going towards the solo. And when the solo comes, it's absolutely incredible, really melodic. It really turns the song on its head, because the solo is very different from everything you were getting from this song up until that moment. That guitar riff build-up kind of gives you an idea that something is coming, that the solo perhaps is coming, but it doesn't give you an idea of how good that solo is going to be and how much of a change to the whole dynamic of the song that solo really offers. So I really like that. It's a really different song. I love the structure. I love the way they did that build up to the solo, and I love the solo on this track. Grand Magus, Wolf God, out April 19th. I absolutely love this record. And the thing that I must say, I'm going to go back to this before I finish this album review. The thing that I really enjoyed about this record, out of everything, out of the structure, out of the fluidity, out of how the songs were put together, was the vibe that I was listening to a live record, and it was a studio album. That raw feel, almost like I was listening to a jam session of the band, almost like I was listening to one of their demo tapes. That raw energy, that raw vibe came across in the recording, and that to me is what sets this album apart. All right, guys, let me know your thoughts on the band, on the record. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.